Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmere Connections. We're a collective of book-loving nerds rereading Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere series. From book 1 to book 16 million, we'll be uncovering every secret connection there is to find. Today, we are joined by Swiggity Swoo,
Eidos Domai Suli, welcome to Elantris.
John,
Go away, D-Loff.
Kay,
Hello.
and I'm ReaderWarrior. And today, we are going to be covering chapters 19 to 23 of Elantris, Part 1, Shadow of Elantris.
Okay, so I had chapter 19. So with this chapter, it starts off and we get to see Elantris as it was before the Reread. So this is a dream that Raoden is having. So we get to see the city, the bright city, full of magic, full of life. It is just, there's just so much going on. And Raoden is there with his mother, his actual mother, and his father, and he is in pain because he fell off something and he snapped his leg bone. So he is in a great deal of pain, and his parents, and the leg has become infected. So his parents brought him to Elantris kind of as a last resort. His dad really didn't want to bring him, but if they didn't, he was probably going to die. So they brought him to Elantris to one of the Elantrian healers, and the healer does the Aeon Ion for healing and does a bunch of extra lines around it and ends up healing Raoden's leg. And he wakes up and he is in a great deal of pain from being an Elantrian. And he kind of thinks to himself, he's like, people talk about how the pain of an Elantrian is constant. He's like, I feel like there's something wrong with me, maybe, because my pain is not constant. It comes in waves. Or sometimes he will just be hit by a wave of just agonizing pain. And then he'll be able to get it to subside and he'll continue on with his life. So he goes to investigate, and Galadon has started planting the seeds for the corn, and they've started growing corn in their little garden that they made. And he's talking to someone, can't quite remember who, and Sheor's men come in and attack.
Oh, that's right. He almost takes like a crowbar to the face, right?
Yeah, he almost takes a crowbar to the face. He almost gets hit. Luckily, the guy that he picked up, who used to be a soldier, Theoden, comes in with his group and is able to dispatch the 5 men that came in to attack, of the 5 of Sheor's men who came in to attack. And they're able to cut them down with their swords. One of them they cut the head off of, and it should be noted, they do not bleed.
The debate has been settled.
Thank you. So, and they put the 4 men who are still like alive, who didn't get their head chopped off, with the other Hoid. So they have started gathering the Hoid of Elantris and bringing them to not the main chapel building, but a building next door to help care for them and take care of them. And then they burned the one who got his head chopped off, didn't they? Or did they just, what did they?
I think they burned it because the whole thing was about helping them, and he can't be helped. So.
Yeah. was like, I think they burned him. Um, and as this Rayoden is thinking about like the fact that like Shayor needs to be dealt with. They need to figure out what to do about Shayor, and Shayor's men, because they can't keep having them be attacking. So they need to do something about it. Rayoden has also been it switches to a new section, and Rayoden is looking through his book on Aeons, on Aeon Door, and he talks to Galadon, and Galadon explains to Rayoden about how door isn't an Aeonic word. It's a Duladel word. It's from Duladel, and it is the unforeseen, unseen force in the central concept of the Jesker religion.
It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds
Yeah.
the universe together.
Yeah,
and makes water flow, or water want to flow.
Yes, it is the reason why things happen. It's that force that is the reason why things want to do what they do. So, and Rayoden thinks about how the fact that the Elantrians must be fueled by the door, and that the door must still be working, at least partially, because of the fact that the Elantrians, that they themselves are still alive, and they're able to exist without, excuse me, sorry, yawning, without needing to consume food. So the door must still be partially working, and he thinks if they can somehow fix the Aeons and the Aeon door, then they can fix the Elantrian. And that there must be some geographical link between Aeon door and Erelon, because of the fact that in his book it states that the Aeon door doesn't work as well the farther you get away from Erelon, and of the fact that the Shaod only takes people who are in Erelon. Like, for example, it won't take anyone who is currently living in Teod, but if someone from Teod is living in Erelon, then the Shaod can take them. Because they are connected, and that the people from Duladel, the people who live on the border between Duladel and Erelon, are likely to be taken by the Shaod as well. But people from Fjordell are never taken from the Shaod, no matter how long they live in Erelon. They will not be taken by the Shaod.
It's messed up. There's got to be some Fjordellians who are good dudes. I mean, the Shaod obviously is bad, but you know, the Reod.
What? Yeah.
So, yeah. That's it for...
Okay, so I love... Okay, I'm going back to the beginning. I love at the beginning where like, even the short people seem tall, even the ugly ones seem beautiful.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Oh yeah,
they do have...
in Old Elantris.
Yes, in Old Elantris. They do have fast travel. We see them use fast travel. It is a video game.
We know how much Brandon likes video games, so it's unsurprising.
True.
That whole dream sequence was awesome, though.
I
Yes.
wonder, when did the first Souls game come out?
My question about the dream is that we see Iodin not a nice person. So like,
Oh,
at
yeah.
what point did he like, I love my son so much that I will go against what I believe to take my child into the city to becoming this?
I think it's his wife who pressured him into taking Raoden into Elantris because he did not want to do it. I think it was his wife who Raoden's mother who was the
Which
one
is,
who convinced him to take Raoden into Elantris to be healed. I think Iadon would have just let Raoden die rather than
but it's a
take
bit
him.
weird because in the memory it seemed like Iodin was the one like that was fine being there, while the mom was like the one scared.
Well,
Or
remember,
not
it was
wanting
a
to.
dream, not a memory. So
Exactly. So I think he's dreaming of a more normal parentage, like a
I don't
father
know.
who would do anything to save his son.
Wasn't Iodin the one who like hesitated at the door, and the mom like took his hand and said, "Come on"?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, but there's a difference between like the door and like the actual city, and like the mom was always like scared of everything. Like she was holding on to Iodin,
But they were just that
and I now
desperate because he was like, I don't know. He was pretty close to
But
death. It even says so.
yeah.
He had no idea how close he was.
I'm gonna call the Atlantrian woman that saved
Yep.
Raoden Lori.
You're gonna call her what? Sorry, cut out.
Lori, as a continuation of my The Walking Dead naming background characters, naming background Atlantrians.
okay.
I've got one more. The person whose head gets cut off, he shall be Dale.
Okay.
Whatever
This would
makes
make
you
a lot more
happy.
sense if you guys said.
Have any of the rest of us seen The Walking Dead?
Nope.
Parts of it.
Okay, so at least Swiggity might understand what you're talking about.
All I know is that dream sequence was really cool. Like the creepy metaphor of like getting your leg healed, but then it's still being in pain and not being able to speak up about it. Like that was super chilling.
And like seeing the magic and the illustriousness of the city in its prime was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
I find it weird that Raoden can't ignore the pain as much as everybody else can. But I guess it kind of ties into the fact he's doing all this so other people forget about the pain, so he alone is carrying that burden.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Because
Like everyone else can just do their jobs because it's for him, whilst he has to assign all these jobs so that they don't remember the pain and the hunger.
yeah, his job is certainly never done, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
I like that connection though. That's cool.
Okay, that's all of my non-spoiler notes about this. A lot of my other questions are like hardcore.
Yeah, and
questions.
I know what you mean. Like I kind of had one thing I wanted to bring up about it, but it might be a little spoilery. I guess it's just that like seeing like how Elantris was before, it made me think of like, living there now when everything was reliant on magic. Like you have this whole city that's like set up to be used in a way that no longer works. So like Raoden and everybody trying to figure things out when they have no idea like how it worked must be super confusing. Like you come up to just like a stone slab or whatever, and you're like, okay, I have no idea what this was, because the people who used it, there was probably like glowing magic stuff that would pop up. You'd be like looking around the city trying to figure out what anything is, and it's like, okay, I guess I put my hand here and the door would just magically open. Like, I don't know.
Could have been the fast travel wall. Who knows?
Yeah, like that city would be so frustrating.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay. 20. So this is the Serene chapter. So it starts with Serene talking to the little gang of nobles about the fact that they need to side with Iodon. That they need to side with Iodon because of the fact that Iodon is about to lose his throne. Due to the fact that that the Fjordell have been sinking
I feel
Iodon's ships.
I feel this emotionally. This concept of like, we need to keep what we have now because the alternatives are way worse.
Yeah.
Even though it's not great.
Yeah.
We know it's not perfect, but the devil you know.
Right?
Yeah.
Better than actual Satan.
Yep. So they have to side with Iodon, and they have to find a way to let Iodon make money. So Serene comes up with like half a plan, because she doesn't know much about merchants, so she comes up with half a plan.
The concept of a plan?
Yeah, like half a plan, you know. Her idea is to get Iodon to form a trade treaty with her father because they have the familiar relationship through her. And that trade treaty will allow Iodon to make money, to make a lot of money, so that he can keep his throne. But they warn her, they're like, he's probably not gonna go for this because it's gonna look like a handout. Like, and merchants are distrustful of gifts. They don't like gifts. So we need to be cautious. You need to be cautious to make sure that he doesn't think that you're just giving him a handout, because then he'll say no.
Be very, very quiet. We're hunting Falcons.
Yep.
Yay.
She also informs them of her plan for her widow's tribe. So she is planning to give food to the Elantrians. And she wants them to help her hand out food to the Elantrians as a way of showing the people that the Elantrians are not devils, that they are just these poor, wretched souls that need help, that they are not to be feared, which is fair, and it's her way of countering what she knows about what Hrathen is doing. So that's her plan.
To humanize the what are they called? Fjorden?
Fjordell?
No, the
They
Sfrakus.
call them as demons.
Sfrakus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we get into it a bit in my chapter, but like, you can't blame Serene for this one because she is killing two birds with one stone. She's dealing with Hrathen, and she's knocking out the widow's trial.
Mm-hmm.
And to the best of her knowledge, they need food. She has no concept of the fact like, oh, this is going to screw over my dead fiance/husband's noble plan.
Yeah. She doesn't know. She's doing what she, with the knowledge that she has, she is honestly doing a good thing, because she knows that the Elantrians don't get food, and she wants to try to help them. So she is doing a good thing. So
yeah, it's never a bad thing to give charity to people who need it, you know? And this whole idea of like, oh, now that we got food, we're going to start slipping again. You know, that there might be some truth to that, but that's not on Sereni.
Yeah.
Yes and no. This has actually happened quite a lot of times in history. What historically should have happened and what Sereni should do here is she should go to them, ask for the leaders, and ask them what do they want. In which she kind of does that, but then she forces the food thing. But she doesn't get an insider opinion. Which historically neither do a lot of big nations that go to smaller nations. Is we're going to bring you this thing and you're going to be happy about it, no matter if it kind of ruins your entire economy and government.
Yeah, it's interesting. She turns it into a bribe so that they'll trust her. It's like maybe, you know, maybe if they did trust her, she could have went that route of like, hey, what do you guys think would be best? But the way it was, she was like just happy to get them to agree to something, like, and to get out of there safely. But that's in my chapter.
But she, and historically people tend to view that group as like, not lesser, but like less intelligent. No.
Well, to be honest, Sereni doesn't know what's going on inside.
Man.
She doesn't know what's going on inside Elantris. She, to be honest, doesn't even know that they have leaders inside Elantris. She has zero clue.
That's
no,
a
she
good.
doesn't.
That's a good point,
She
though.
doesn't.
3 leaders.
No, she doesn't.
She calls out for them specifically.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, but she thinks they're like gang leaders, like bloodthirsty gang leaders. She doesn't think that
Yeah.
they're,
All I'm
civilized.
saying is,
She
All I'm
doesn't
saying
think
is
that they're
that-
actually trying to help anyone. Like,
no. In which, I guess, you know, considering the secondhand information she has, she's making the best decision she can, but the thing is, the decision of just asking them, hey, what do you need, never comes to her.
An interesting debate comes up when you think of like, does she believe, like her and Hrathen are both kind of using them for in the same way, but in opposite ways, and it's like, does Hrathen believe that they're actually demonic? Probably not as much. Does she believe that they're actually good?
no.
I think she shows us that she actually doesn't. Like, she thinks... Because when she first meets with Spirit, she's like, oh, he's a monster, they're all using the people. And then she has that moment of recognition where like, oh, he's hungry too.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't fault Sereni completely because you don't go into like a area like that and like, oh, I want to ask what do you want? Hey, you want to have a civil conversation? I mean, she doesn't think they're capable of that.
Yeah. Because
But the
from
problem
the information that she has been given is that the Elantrians don't talk to anyone. They've formed like roving bands essentially, like gang leaders, but that the majority of Elantrians don't know how to communicate other than to like ask for food.
It's just the issue is she never gets a first-hand account. She only relies on.
Well, how would she have gotten a first-hand account? How would she have gotten a first-hand account before she goes in the city?
She sends she to go like, hey, go find one of the gang leaders and tell them I wish to talk. I'm gonna borrow another sound. We'll do the cell phone call.
Plus, they hide from her. They're trying to hide their like society from her because they're afraid that like the people in Kai will see the Elantrians as like forming some sort of like undead army.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, in hindsight, yes, that's why they make their decision of still pretending to be 2 gangs. But Sereni could have chosen a better option, even though it just would not have come to her.
I think she chose the best option with the information that she had.
And I'm not going to deny that. I'm just saying there was a better option.
Yeah, but I'm saying that she didn't have the information to make a better choice.
But she could have gotten
Like,
that
that's the
information.
point. But she didn't have the information.
So, with her sending Aishi in and then borrowing another Sion, whose Sion is she going to borrow precisely?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's weird.
I don't know.
Most people don't
Yeah.
have Sions.
Oh, wait a second. No, I can't reveal that because I don't know if that's a spoiler. There is one person in her group that does have a Sion.
Sions are so personal. I feel like it would be weird to borrow one.
Yeah.
I'm more so critiquing history at this point and kind of getting upset about that than about Sereni specifically. I'm just wanting, if anybody listens to this, goes into politics, has to make a decision, get a first-hand witness first.
Do you think this is a point Sanderson's trying to make a little bit?
No, I absolutely do not.
No.
Because,
I think this is 100% a reader thing.
but this comes up kind of again in, like, Oathbringer, right? Like, a very similar thing happens, doesn't it? With Shallan?
I don't remember, and it's best we stay spoiler-free.
Okay. I mean, fair on staying spoiler-free.
Yeah, if you bring it up again in the spoiler section and then tell us what section you're thinking about, then maybe we can discuss it, but...
All right.
Okay, so she convinces the men to agree to help her with the widow's trial. Again, Shuden is the first one to agree to her plan, which she notes. And they all agree to go into Elantris with her if she can get permission from Iadon.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, when Shuden was the first one, she's like, "Oh, he's a handsome man, agreeable."
Yeah. So she goes to Iadon to ask him for permission to enter Elantris
Fully mode
And-
activated.
and to try to convince him to do the deal with her father. That she is convinced, she's already told her that she's informed her father that she to do this plan of her plan. So she goes into the meeting with Iadon, and she's not quite sure how she's gonna do it, but she just kind of rolls in, and she decides to let her facade of being an idiot drop.
Oh, dang it.
And he is so surprised that she is not an idiot. And he is pissed that because he feels like she has made him look like a fool, which honestly, like, Iadon, you did that to yourself, so, like, Selene really didn't need any help with that. But he is pissed that he feels like he was made to look like a fool. But Sereni tells him that her father would be that Teode is interested in silks, which is what he trades in. One of the things that he trades in. That Teode is really interested in buying silks, and that he might be able to use the familial connection between her and her father to get a good deal. And at first he's like looking really suspicious of her, and she's like, but of course I need something in return. I need you to let me into Elantris. So they go back and forth, but he eventually does let her go into Elantris for 2 hours each day to do her widow's trial. And she is not allowed to bring any more. No, she's allowed to bring no more than 10 people.
Not including guards.
Excluding
Not
guards.
not including guards. Yes. Oh, 10
So bring
people.
5 million guards.
10
I
people,
don't think
not
there are that many
including
people
guards.
in all of Arelon, but you know.
So, and Iadon accepts, and Iadon calls her dad and puts together this trade deal with Teod, and she's like, he was gonna run them out of the money, like, which is just kind of funny. And she's like, yeah, she's like, yeah, my dad doesn't have any sense of any kind of mercantile sense. So, we skip a little bit, and Sereni comes back to her room and sees that it has not been cleaned. And this is the second day in a row this has happened. And so Sereni sends for the maid to figure out what's going on. The maid comes in and explains that the maid who is assigned to Sereni's room has run away. And they didn't realize that that was the maid who had ran away, was the maid who was assigned to the room. So she's like, I'm so sorry, this won't happen again. Like, we'll make sure that your room gets cleaned. Like, and so I'm so sorry I'm yawning so much.
Yeah, that's 3 now.
I know. I don't know why I'm yawning so much.
Reader's like, another counter!
So many counters today.
I love data.
But so Sereni goes to sleep, but then she's woken up in the middle of the night. It's kind of when she's like half asleep, and she wakes up and she hears a noise again from her walls. This is the 4th time that she has heard her walls. And all of the instances have taken place around 11 o'clock at night. Oh my god. I just keep yawning. I don't know why. And she suspects that there is a hidden passage in the walls that lead to the king's chamber, and that Iadon is using it to sneak out in the middle of the night for some reason.
Okay,
I mean, Taco Bell is open.
Getting a late night snack.
That's what I'm
We
saying.
can turn your TP into Crunchwrap Supremes.
They have a grilled cheese burrito now.
There's no Taco Bell over here. Wait, no, there is. Is there? I don't remember anymore.
Well, if there's not, you could just make a run for the border.
Dude, there's only one Chipotle and it's down in London.
Oh wow.
Sad.
Yeah.
I love Chipotle.
Same.
Let's see. We learned that Driok Crushthroat tried to take the throne years ago, and most of his ships were destroyed then. And that's why
Yeah.
it couldn't be his ships now. So I love the fact that Sereni likes to talk while standing up and moving about. Like we had Braithen prefers to do it from a sitting thing, where people are
Which,
forced
like,
to focus on him.
Honestly, me too, Sereni. I also like to pace.
Yes.
Like,
But I like the juxtaposition of those two.
I would say it depends on what Braithen is doing.
Well, yeah, he specifically said, like, when he called somebody in, he was sitting, and he wanted to be sitting, so this way, their attention was... There was, like, a specific...
Yeah,
chapter.
it's in my chapter, but in the very same chapter, he wants to walk the walls to clear his mind and do his serious thinking. Which, I guess that's not talking to people, but still.
When he's conversing with people, he likes to either sit down or he will stand in one place. He won't be moving around, which is the juxtaposition between Sereni, who is constantly moving.
I like kind of annoyed at the part where Serena's like, Ida's like, I made the law, I can't break it, and Serena's like, yeah, but you can bend it and make exceptions to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, if the leader of a country makes a law and then only they're allowed to break it, what's the point of the law?
Mm-hmm.
To keep the masses in line. What?
Well, somebody else could break it and they could just pardon them.
And then I really liked after the maid came in and apologized. Serena had like a chapter where she had like an anxiety attack, and she kind of questioned everything and her skill and like was she able to do this? Because we've seen, like, with the exception of art, every time she's gone out and tried to do something, like, she has been hard, fast, and focused on it, and she knows she can do it. And it's nice to see that she does question that a bit. I think it adds a little bit of depth to the character.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about that laws thing. Like, it's a really important question to ask because it's kind of showing up in our world right now. Like, I think the Supreme Court just voted in that the president has the power to use, like, any kind of force necessary to protect the seat of office that he holds. And that kind of includes using, like, military action against, United States personnel if necessary. And he could be pardoned for that. Like, it's not...
Well, it's not that he can be pardoned, it's that if it's a presidential act, they cannot be charged for doing it.
Yeah. So, like, I was joking, like, somebody else could do it and he could pardon them. But, like, really, it is a serious topic.
Mm-hmm. The question is, what defines a presidential act?
Right. And that is, like,
That's definitely tangential.
super semantic.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
tangential, but it's like off topic a little bit. I mean, I see
Yeah.
the parallel, but do we want to get bogged down in American
No.
politics?
Sometimes
Not
it's
while
more
recording.
interesting than the book.
Do Sion's dream?
I don't know, but it sounds like they like power down for a little while, which is interesting.
Excuse me, sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.
Yeah.
Of course they dream. They dream about flying around. I don't know. If they sleep,
Well,
they probably
like-
dream.
They obviously like power down and like he falls asleep, or to the best of human can compare it to. But like, does he just like go off into like the subnet that all Seons are, and like gets drawn back, or like is he like fully off, or like how does things we'll never know. All right, that's all I got.
Okay.
Cool. Let's keep going.
John, you got 21.
I do have 20. Cursor, go to screen. There we go. No, stop doing the thing. So, sorry, I had the notes on my other monitor and I had to drag them over, and it was. Yeah. Anyway, so Crathen is kind of sitting at his desk at his office, doing what he does, and he's interviewing the various Arteths of the temple and offering them the role of head Arteth of the chapel, but they all keep declining and refusing to tell him why. And at first he wonders if Theon, the priest Hrathen sent back to Fjordell way back at the beginning of the book, is to blame for kind of like letting these guys get soft and like losing their ambition. But then he kind of thinks about it. He's like, no, something else is going on here, and I bet it has something to do with Delof.
Delof did that.
Paranoia, maybe, but Delof still has to be dealt with. So Hrathen armors up and he heads out to go find him.
Steps in the booth, Iron Man.
So Hrathen gives Deloff a letter saying it is for Wern, and it is so important that he doesn't trust anyone else to deliver this letter. And Deloff is like, "Yes, my Hrodin," and he immediately just like sets about going to deliver this letter by shouting, "Send out messengers, get everybody back here." And Hrathen's like, "Ugh, what are you talking about?"
Or he's like,
Well,
everybody.
I'm getting my Odives, and he's like, "What do you mean your Odives?" And Deloff is like, "Oh, well, surely if this letter is so important that it has to go to Wern, you want it to be well protected. So all of my uh, Odives are going to come with me to help me protect this letter." And he's like, Wrathen is just like, "Out of curiosity, how many Odives have you taken?" And Deloff is kind of like, "Well, I kind of took a lot of them." And he starts listing them off, and Hrathen is like, "That's over 30 people." And he's like, thinking to himself, he decides that those are all of his like biggest supporters, and if Deloff takes them away, the chapel will just collapse because there will be no backing. There, everybody will be gone. So he's like, okay, and if they refuse, they'll all have to be excommunicated, which would also mean the collapse of the church here in Aerolon, and Hrathen would be just up a creek without the paddle, so to speak. So he's like, okay, fine, Deloff, pick a person, have them take it, but I can't go without your services for that long. And so he keeps Deloff there, and that's the last we hear of this letter. Presumably Deloff, picks somebody to go back and handles that, but,
I wonder what was actually in the letter. Just like, hey, wanted to say have a nice day. Weather here is nice. See you soon.
I'm sure it actually did contain, like, an update, because what if Deloff gets halfway there and then reads it?
True.
Like...
Bro, it's a shopping list.
It's just, it's a drawing of Hrathen giving him the middle finger. It's like, I knew you would open this sucker.
Good luck screwing with my plans now, you little jerk.
Gotcha.
But Hrathen, having been very, very neatly
outmaneuvered.
Yes,
Outmatched.
I was going to say defeated, but that's definitely not the right word. Outmaneuvered. Decides that he needs to go somewhere and think. So he kind of leaves the chapel and starts wandering his way up to the walls of Elantris, where he knows Deloff will never ever go. And along the way, he encounters some beggars who tell him that, begging is not allowed in the city, so we only come in at night, and, otherwise we hide out in the other cities around Elantris, and if they catch us, they send us back to the farms, and all of this. And Hrathen gives them a bag of coins and another one for the other beggars who hide outside the city, and moves on with his day. So
I love this part.
He's being charitable, and he's like, you realize again that he's not the bad guy, he's just the opposition, right? Because he's trying to save lives, he's trying to do good, he's trying to do what he thinks is right. But he's definitely not the one we're supposed to be rooting for.
Yes. It's like if there was somebody from Nazi Germany that was sent to go to France and basically told them surrender or else we're going to blitzkrieg you. You don't want the Nazis to win, but you don't want the entire German forces coming in to kill everybody.
Yes, that's a bit, it's a bit extreme, but it's a pretty good analogy. I mean, you're not wrong, because that's kind of what Fjordell is doing. Just running around the world with their crazy armies of conscripts. And
I had the same thought process. I was like, whoa, that's an extreme example. And then I realized that, oh, wait, yeah, that is the plan. Actually, isn't it? Oy.
Yeah.
Subjugate them all into their worldview.
But, like...
Conversion by execution.
Yeah, it's interesting, because at no point do you want Hrathen really to succeed, but also you recognize like that he himself is not the reason everything's so bad, which is cool.
I do really love this section where it shows like this is kind of what a religion and what Hrathen wants to be and what a religion should be. Now it's not forcing a doctrine, it's here we will help you because this is what our faith decrees, and if you want to learn more, we will teach you.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree. But anyway.
You're free to if you'd like.
Thank you for affirming my freedom of speech.
You're very welcome.
Anyway, so Hrathen finally makes it up to the walls, and he's kind of thinking to himself a little bit, and who should show up but old Father Omine, the docile preacher.
Korra.
Oh,
Korath. He talks a bit about, the days of Elantris in its prime when nobody went hungry because of the magics, and why would devils do, how could devils do so much good in the world, and why would they even want to? And he asks why Hrathen preaches hatred, there we go, for the Elantrians when really all he does is kind of feel pity for them. And Hrathen says it isn't so hard as a man can force himself to hate easily enough. And Hrathen says that Omine should do as he does or he will become irrelevant. And then they discuss the nature of truth and physicality and how Shu-Dereth is vibrant and dynamic while Shu-Korath is docile and weak. And Omine says truth is inseparable from actions and that it stands above all things. He also then says that he asks what happened to Hrathen's faith, and Hrathen's is like, what, huh? But Omine says he's listened to Hrathen's sermons and he hears logic and understanding and thought, but no faith. It makes him wonder what happened to it. And Hrathen kind of just is like, go away. And he's a little bit shocked that a private thought he had in his head just days ago could be so apparent to someone else, and he kind of just is between Deloth and now this, he's like kind of reevaluating himself, it seems like. But that's where we leave the chapter with Hrathen having this like sort of moment of self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I do.
Yeah, it's that moment that what happened to your faith? Like, what happened to you? Something happened. And him making that realization, that is the reason I wanted this chapter, because that is, it's something that I think most people can empathize with on some level or another, right? Like, we all question our motivations from time to time, and we wonder, how we got on the path we're on, or what decisions we've made that brought us to this situation we're in, and we kind of just have to stop and self-reflect. And it's one of those human moments that really just makes Sanderson's work so great.
And it's fascinating to me to think Hrathen's character, he's a high priest in this religion. And he's the one who lost his faith. It's not a normal person that has lost their faith and simply doesn't believe anymore. And we've seen that in the Cosmere, and we see it in a normal day, that people don't believe in things the way that ancestors used to believe, probably through indoctrination. And it's not a question of, well, we're actually right, or you need to believe again. It's, what do you want? And Hrathen seems to want to believe. He wants to have that faith. I mean, he did become this level in the religious doctrine. So he does have that fervor in him, the same fervor that kind of Deloth has, not in that way, but he's lost it, and he seems to want to regain it.
Man, I'm so glad you called that out because I didn't feel that way reading through this, but like after having it explained in that way, it does hit home so hard. Like, you know, especially the whole thing about truth being a virtue too, and how like, you know, we all have kind of a double speak, I think sometimes, like to borrow a phrase from 1984, where you kind of like sometimes you're not really sure where like what you really feel in your heart, you know, lines up with what you have to believe. And like Hrathen is such an interesting character in that way because he represents like almost polar opposite, like extremes of like his thought process has nothing to do with faith at this point, and yet he is like a religious figurehead. And the fact that like it takes this guy calling it out for him to truly acknowledge it is kind of mind blowing when you read him. And from chapter 1, you can already see that conflict, or whatever chapter
I
is his.
really connect. I really connect with Harath on this chapter because I've had the same thoughts where, and granted mine's a little different because I believe that the church has kind of split off what the theme is, and I see it a lot of time, like seeing some of the religious nuts in Christianity talk about what they're hate spewing, and I'm like, this is not at all what our faith's supposed to teach. And I've kind of realized maybe the church has changed a bit over the years, and maybe it's forgotten some things. And that's typically the fault of man. So I've started to believe maybe the faith is right, but the church is wrong. Or not wrong, just altered. And I think Horathan is kind of going to have to realize at this point, do I believe in the church or do I believe in Shu
Dirith.
Dirith? I think that may be part of where he's having a conflict is I don't believe in the church, but the church is what is pushing me.
But there's also like a whole aspect of like mental justification too, of like, you know, it feels so guilty about the Douladel situation and all that happened. You know, we often think that we make decisions and that we think them out beforehand, but like I so much of what we actually do is like a reaction or as an instinctual decision, and then later we're like prescribing thoughts to it. You know, I bet so much of his like mind is dedicated to trying to justify and live with like that guilt that he's pushing off. But like, how can you have true faith when like your religion was the cause of that?
And bringing us away from the metaphysical aspect, he's on top of the thing in which there is a joke about the two priests standing on top of a wall built by cursed gods. Somewhere there. He sees like Erelon has like a wall around itself and it's like got streetlights that are making it like a perfect circle. Right?
Mm-hmm.
How do they have streetlights but not water purifiers? I'm stuck on the bucket thing. I will not hold on against the bucket.
It's so the street lights are just lamps that are lit by people.
They have that before they have like, hey, we can drink water if we make it like okay.
They can drink. They know that they can drink water, but it requires a lot of work and a lot of effort. So why put in the effort? Why put in the effort to drink something that doesn't taste nice? That doesn't taste good. They would rather drink something if they're gonna put in the effort to make something. They would rather drink something that they think tastes good. That's the point.
Yeah, plus, like, back then, you could get away with being a little buzzed all the time. Like, you didn't have to operate heavy machinery.
That's true. Okay. I got nothing else for 21. Okay. 22. With Sheor's men now even more desperate, Raoden's stealth skills are in need of leveling up. It seems that the more animalistic they are, the less they feel pain and the stronger they have become. Raoden and Galanon were trying to see/meet with Sheor, bypassing the rabid Elantrians of his group. It was the only way to keep Raoden's group safe. Galadin leads him to the bank, where merchants kept their wealth in the olden days. Aeon Edo protection is etched into the door. Inside, they find Sheor sitting on top of a gold bar throne, and it turns out she's a little girl in a pink dress with golden hair.
Big bad Sheor.
Before they can do anything, Sheor sees them, and they are forced to flee.
What'd you say?
I said I was not expecting that when I first read it. To be a little girl sitting on top of, like, gold bars.
Oh yeah, that was definitely like a moment.
Okay, next. Raoden realizes that Sheor's men have reverted into primal beasts that worship her as a god because she looks so different. She was a duke's daughter that never grew hair and needed a wig. She died, quote-unquote died, 2 years ago, but there were always rumors that she became an Elantrian. Sadly, this means they won't be able to reason with her. They returned to New Elantris in one of its centuries. They had spread out pretty far and had found many items in neighboring buildings. As long as Sheor didn't plan an attack from multiple areas at the same time, they should be safe. For a moment, Raoden feels pain like all of Elantris is his to bear, but it passes by quickly. He says that Sheor is their greatest threat. They can't stop her physically, and they can't talk with her.
Their greatest threat is a little girl.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Raoden stops at the wall and marvels at its cleanliness and touches it. The stone crumbles apart easily, confusing him. It has to be connected to the door as well. Maybe, Raoden realizes, it's the lack of door. Then, suddenly, Marishi arrives to say that Serene is invading. It makes sense that their greatest threat is this little girl. Because, like, all she wants is probably just bring me that thing. You can't teach her you can't teach a child that's been stuck like that. Especially not one who's been worshipped for the past 2 years. And she has an army of people that don't seem to feel pain and that just keep going.
And she doesn't really know what's going on, I don't think, really.
I would doubt she would.
So, like, all she knows is that she's hungry and she wants things. So you can't really reason with her.
Yep. And Karada said, like, chapters ago that children don't feel it as bad as the other people, so she might not even be aware of, like, she probably stood at the wall crying because her mommy and daddy kicked her into the city with all the demon people, and then got put on the throne, and that was pretty much it. The doors were open and a small parade had entered Elantris. Raoden points out Serene, his ex-bride, while Galadin notices Shuden. Ahon and Eondel were there as well. They watch as Serene pulls the tarp off a cart, revealing food. Raoden curses, realizing this will only set them back and ruin everything in the long run. But it may also bring attention to Sheor's men, and if that happens and a noble is hurt, Iodin would have no reason not to have them all executed. Dun, dun, dun. Raoden, Galadon, and Marishi listen as Serene calls for the 3 tyrants that rule Elantris: Aedan, Karada, and Sheor. Raoden tells Marishi to send a runner to get Karada and Seolin. but he wants Marishi to pretend to be Aeton. End of chapter.
It's funny, like them being undead is used both as like a positive and a negative. They're like, well, she's got an army of undead soldiers, but like, you know, they're not that tough. Like they're still afraid, you know. Like it's okay. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is like in my chapter they talk about how they're hiding the fact that they're organizing because they're afraid that the king is going to come and stamp them out because of like an army of undead soldiers is like a big threat. But then in this chapter they're like, well, like they can't be that much of a threat if they're worried about the king.
Well, it's the fact, like, if they go as mad as Sheora's men, like, there's no stopping them unless you actually get to the head. But, like, the normal people will go Hoed, if they get too many scrapes and bruises. And those are the ones that can get organized.
Oh, so Sheora's men are in a different state entirely, huh?
Yes. Yep.
Ugh.
Tales for 22. Pretty cut and dry chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good chapter, but I don't have much to say. Chapter 23. Revenge of the Sith. Sereni enters Elantris guided by Spirit, an Elantrian who would have been handsome before the Shaod, but who, of course, we know is Raoden. He takes her to meet with Karada and Aendon, who is really Marishi in disguise. They lie to her and say they've killed Sheor. Backpedaling from her initial plan to use them all against each other, she decides to try to bribe them, or more rather present her plan to give them food as a bribe in a way to earn their trust. Because at this point she still thinks that they might be a bunch of bloodthirsty kidnapping Srakas.
And yet she expects all three leaders to just come out and meet with her.
Yeah.
You know, we never said that her plan was like a good one.
I mean, she literally fell for the fact, like, oh, that's him. Okay. No verification, no nothing.
How would she have been able to buy that?
Hey, Ashley,
Reader,
is this like the one they
I have a
described?
quick, but they don't know. They don't know what they look like.
I
Yeah,
know,
it's
but
interesting that
just
the Sions don't like go with them to things.
Yeah.
Like that would be important.
Also, Ashy
Yeah.
just talked to the guards. I don't think the guards have ever actually seen any of the.
Well, they must, because they have to open up the doors for them to throw the new Elantrians in.
But they
like-
wouldn't have known who was like Karada versus who was A
Oh, in that way.
or who
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
Sheor. Yeah, like they wouldn't be able to recognize them enough to describe them to anyone. So it's like, and that's who Ashy got most of his information from, was from the guards.
But also, like, Ashley hasn't, like, gotten new information in, like, the past 3 weeks or so. Because, like, I'm pretty sure all the guards would have noticed, like, hey, that one guy's a new leader, and, like, that group's kind of left their whole thing
Would
and
they?
joined them, and they're all kind of moving to that building.
Would
These
they?
people have nothing else to do but watch Elantrians all day. I would think, like, they would notice an entire group leave a building.
They don't watch
Maybe.
them though. They just play cards in their little house.
Pretty much.
Like, I pretend
Yeah.
to be doing something.
Plus, Elantris has got to
Yeah.
be huge, with like all these super tall buildings, and it must be hard to see
My
exactly
critique
what's
is
going
more
on in
so
there.
just. My critique is, why hasn't Ashley or Sereni gotten more up to date information? Like, it's at least 3 weeks out of date.
I mean, because this is like medieval times and not the Pentagon.
Yeah.
They have a living satellite ball that cannot be hurt. Why not utilize that more?
Because
she
they're not that
already-
creative yet, I guess. I
She
don't know.
she already used it and she got information. So she was like, "Oh, okay, so I got the information about it. So I know what's going on."
To be fair, I think she comes up with that plan later in this chapter. Because, well, I'll get there. But they accept and demand supplies, despite Sereni's belief that they may request weapons or money at first. Which I just thought that was interesting. Like, she thought they might ask for money.
Yeah,
Why?
it's like, what are they going to use money for?
You've been spending too much time in
Stuff and
Kai.
things.
Sereni's only request is to not stop anyone from coming to the gates for food, which they agree to. After she leaves, Raiden is concerned that she might not like him and decides that from now on he wants to be able to attend every distribution as a way to not only kind of keep an eye on her, but also pretend that he's just there to make sure it goes smoothly.
I find it funny that he is worried that she doesn't like him.
It's so cute.
Yeah, it is. I did like this chapter, like the whole secret, oh, it's me, but you don't know. That was great.
Isn't there a song about secret lover or something?
It's probably a whole genre at this point.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't know, we had our first character change in a chapter this time.
Yeah.
This never happened before.
That was kind of interesting, huh? So anyways, he decides that he wants to keep attending the distributions, and he shows up to the first one. Serena is startled when he shows up and helps to give it out. He accepts a turnip, and Serena can see the hunger in his eyes, showing they are starving just like everyone else. And she kind of softens up a little bit. And so do the Elantrians as they accept the food after Raid. And Serena starts to get through to Ahane, who is like feeding a young girl. Raiden won't stop staring at Serena, though, and she realizes he is most likely the leader, not Anden/Mareshi. So, later on, when talking to Ashy about it, she decides to ask the Sion to spy for her and figure out who this spirit guy really is. Right, so she comes up with it at the end of this chapter.
Ex post facto.
But yeah, you probably should have done that in the first place. Would have saved everyone time. But then we wouldn't have had this great chapter of, them.
It's that way.
There should be a word for this.
Word for
A word
what?
for what?
Like the irony, I guess it's just irony, of like knowing that Spirit is Raoden and getting to read her perspective. And the whole time, you knowing. Like, we wouldn't have got that if she had spied. So I'm glad she didn't come up with it until now.
Well, they could have spied. It's just like she wouldn't know that's Raoden. That come from this, and
She would just know that he's the leader.
yeah, but she wouldn't know it's Raoden. And I do love the situation. We see her literally start to fall for Raoden. Literally falls.
Just a little bit.
But I think it's more powerful that like she is taking this step to give them food, not knowing. She's still kind of half believes they might actually be these people, like these heathens down there. And she's, for her widow trial, she's taking an interest in them. And that would lose some of its morality if she already knew, like, oh, they're actually performing like a society and they're cleaning up the place.
what few resources enter this city go to the gang leaders, and they keep the rest of the people in a state of near starvation. Serenity's just like stereotyping everybody she sees.
That's the information that she has been given from the guards.
But even that was
How
wrong.
else? But that's the point. That's
I know
the
it
point.
is, but it's just like
The guards don't know what's going on. Serenity's information about Elantris all came from the guards.
Then why? I don't understand why Serenity's such a confident and like smart character is trusting this really bad and outdated information.
She doesn't know it's bad and outdated.
She got it secondhand from guards that aren't even down there.
I can just picture it now.
Like,
they're just playing cards. Sorry.
Yeah, if they had asked any of Karada's people, oh, none of our food really goes to Karada. They go to the food that we're keeping safe. They go to the children that we're keeping safe.
But that's the thing. Ashy tried to talk to the people in Elantris, and no one wanted to talk to him. He tried to get information straight from the source, and no one would talk to him.
He floated 3 feet in, tried to talk to the nearest Elantrian, and it spooked the heck out of him.
You don't know that.
And certainly Sereni doesn't know that.
Yeah.
In which, wait a second, they actually comment on an Elantrian.
In fact, we know that Aishi is more thorough than that because Sereni even goes so far as to say outright that by the time he's done searching the dungeons, he'll know the name of every rat down there. Mm-hmm. So he has a reputation for being thorough.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to use a lovable companion as a tactical, like, spy drone or something, like. Plus, he's not necessarily trained in espionage to know all of these things, you know, like.
He just tried to go talk to people to get information to figure out what's going on, and no one talked to him. No one told him what was going on in Elantris.
Also,
he went to the Elantrians first. And then he went to the crazy Sions. Well, because they wouldn't respond to him. There were a bunch that wouldn't respond because they were hoed, and the ones that he could get to respond all asked him for food.
My annoyance is more so like they could have gotten more updated information. And if there was a reason they sent Ashy back in to ask again.
But
hey, we're going into the city tomorrow. Can you go make sure like everything's okay? My critique isn't of Ashy, not of Ashy, or like Serene. It's more so, why couldn't there be like a reason Brandon wrote where there was a reason Ashy didn't go in for 3+ weeks? Like Serene had him on another
because
detail.
Why would he? Why would Elantris has been the same for 10 years? Why would they think
because
that all
now
of a
the
sudden
princess
the
is going in? Because now the princess is going in, and maybe you want to do a little bit of recon before sending in.
Reader.
I'm sorry you're so flustered by this.
My point is the fact
I am enjoying the book. It's just this thing bugs me.
My point, Reader, is the fact that Ashy, one, did try to talk to Elantrians, and the Elantrians, he couldn't get any useful information out of the Elantrians.
So, he got the names of the gang leaders.
No, but that wasn't from the Elantrian. That was from the guard. No, that was from the guard.
Okay.
The only
Elantrians some spoke with seemed very certain. Karada, Aandin, and Sheo were the names I heard at least a dozen times.
Okay. So, but my point still stands of the fact that the Elantrians wouldn't really talk to the Sion. So why would Serene think to send the Sion back into Elantris to get new information, especially because the fact that Elantris has stayed the same for 10 years, so it's like, what's gonna change?
Apparently everything.
Well, yeah, we know that.
I completely understand it. It's just, I feel like there could have been things written to make this more believable in my mind. I think this is just me knowing that Brandon as a writer would completely make this a there was no other way this could have happened.
Reader,
Scenario.
I think you're just upset about the fact that this is an early Brandon book and you want it to be better.
Yes. In which I am allowed to think that. I am allowed to recognize that Brandon has become a much better writer and he would have not made it this open. And he could have had Sereni just like, hey, Sereni has to ask Ashley to check on, like, spy on Aoden for 3 weeks to figure out the specific numbers or try to figure out how much profits he actually lost. That could have been it.
Unfortunately, Reader's audio cut out, but he asked the question, do Elantrians poop?
Interesting point.
You guys are asking
because
this.
if they
I was
eat the
gonna...
food, but their body doesn't process anything, it would just come out the same chewed up mass that it came in as.
I was literally going to ask this question tonight. The fact that it came up naturally is just insane.
Well, we know, I'm pretty sure there was a line like, they can still use their bodily functions. So, like, assuming internally things are semi-working, except for blood, don't get me started. If, like, a poison was applied to them, either, like, through touch or, like, in the digestive tract or in water, bit the water, would it affect them, or would the fact that their bodies seem to be not doing anything because the door is not feeding them anything, would that...
I don't think the poison would affect them because of the fact that their blood doesn't pump. They don't need to breathe. So it's like, what would the poison be doing?
So you're saying the poison would work, but the symptoms are just unrecognizable?
Possibly.
I mean, if assuming the poison actually was digested and absorbed into their body, something like a neurotoxin might affect their cognitive ability because they are still using their brains to think and process and interact.
They can still touch and smell and taste.
Right. A coagulant, though, would obviously not do anything until... We need to talk about that in the spoiler section. Yep.
Okay.
That's how that be.
Yeah, I think they do poop, though. I think there's a wob about it.
Do you want to look up to see if there's a wob about being able to
just
poop,
searched-
Swiggity?
Elantrians poop.
I just searched that up, nothing came out.
Yeah. I think they would be okay because their body processes are, I think, less important than the fact that they're getting power from the door. Like, you know, their whole body not like circulating blood or aging or doing anything normally after the Shaod. That's because they're not getting magic. But like, I don't think it, like poison wouldn't even circulate in your blood, right?
I think John's right, it would depend upon the poison. And I think Kay's right. Obviously, a lot of the poisons wouldn't even affect.
But also, like, how would the poison even get to your brain, let's say? Because your blood is not pumping through your body. And generally, that's poisons, like, affect you is they go into your blood and then it gets through your body. I might be wrong.
Like,
I have no
there's
idea.
so many different, like, toxic substances. Like, if it's digested, if it's processed in your kidneys versus in your liver, your stomach, if it's like a coagulant, an anticoagulant, a neurotoxin, a muscle relaxant, like, there's any number of different ways that substances can affect your body, which is what a poison is. It's just a substance that affects your body in a negative way.
I think they'd be
But the
okay.
question
Apparently,
is-
they can heal, like, really quickly.
Well, not in their current 'current, 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 'cur
Right.
Okay, I just think I got put on an FBI watch list.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for this chapter set? Okay. Well, next time we're going to be finally finishing off part 1, which will be covering chapters 24 through 27. Yep. But now it is time to head into the spoiler realm. So if you have not finished this book, the entire series, or potentially the entire Cosmere, then we recommend that you stop here because it is likely we will talk about everything and anything. If you are up to date, feel free to stick around because it is likely that we'll bring up details you may have missed or plot threads still yet to come. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, star, heart, or whatever it is on this podcast, and don't be afraid to comment your own thoughts and predictions. You can find us at Cosmere Connections Pod at gmail.com, at @CConnectionsPod on Twitter, and we even have our own Facebook group. We would love to hear from you. But if this were the best part, then
Don't forget to subscribe, Colo.
John.
And leave a review while you're at it.
And Kay.
Hello, stick around if you want to hear about poisons.
Don't forget, there's always another connection. And we're back. Spoilers. Okay.
So, yeah, in Elantrian in their current zombie form, I don't think most poisons are going to really do a whole lot. However, in their full power glory form that we see at the end of the book, it would really depend on all kinds of things like how fast they heal themselves, whether their magics can single out the poisons in their bloodstream and they have enough time to draw their little doodles in the air. I really think by and large they're primarily poison immune.
I would really like if, like, in the next couple books there are situations where, like, they realize, man, if we were still stuck in our Shadow forms, this would not be an issue.
I'm pretty sure that there will come a time where they will be able to, on the fly, make edits and changes to the way that the Aeons that cause them to be Elantrians function. And I'm pretty sure that that's how they're able to make Hoyd into an Elantrian. Because they'd have to change who can be targeted by the Ruin to make, or by the Aeon to make the change. Polo?
Let's see, chapter 19, we got Raoden's remembrance of, or slash dream. So, when Lori does the healing Aeon, and she makes the augmentations to it, that specify, like, fix the bone, get rid of the...
The infection?
Infection, that's the word, thank you. So we see, like, could somebody use that to, like, mutate a person?
Yes, like we just talked about, I'm pretty sure that's how Hoyd becomes an Elantrian, by basically being mutated into one.
Well, no, I'm saying can a Elantrian take a normal person, heal them up to a degree past what they originally were?
To give
I
him
guess
like
what I'm saying is,
spikes or something.
Why not?
I guess so. I'm basically asking, can Elantrians cause cancer?
So, Elantrians with Elantrian magic, you can essentially do anything as long as you know the correct Aeon to draw.
Yes.
I'm wondering more so if, like, you can over heal. Because we see in like Stormlight Archive, like the healing stops when you reach a point of what you remember or want yourself to be.
But
So let me
Storm,
ask you a different question. What does it mean to overheal? What is that? What does that look like?
Your bones get bigger than what they're supposed to. Oh shoot.
So it's enforced growth. Because healing
Enforced
returns your body to health, right?
to its natural state.
It's almost like a reversing of time. Like the way
Well,
healing
no,
works.
he's talking about super soldier serum here.
I guess I could. Oh shoot! I didn't even think
But
about that.
but in the
Yes.
Cosmere, like the way it works is it like brings you back to like whatever state you identify as. Like
But that's also tends to be like you are picking what you want to be healed as. This is very much this person is deciding what you will get healed.
but I do think it is
So-
like growth. Like growth is like a kind of like the surge that it's pulling on whenever somebody heals, or at least that's the way like Lift's power of is called regrowth.
Yeah.
But it
Right,
always
but
stops
these aren't
at where.
surges. These are aeons that are designed by the user to perform a specific task.
You don't
So
think
if you
they
make an aeon that's job is to make you superhuman, grow your bones, harden your, harden your muscles, whatever. That's just what they're going to do.
And we see with like regrowth or growth in healing with light, it always kind of gets you to the point of this is where you envision yourself.
Yeah, it has a very strong spiritual connect and cognitive connection
Well,
where this is where you think of yourself as being, this is the state that you see yourself as being in a
I was kind of getting the impression that the door does have like a similarity or at least a connection to the surges, though. Like in the chapter when they're talking about how it's what makes the water flow, that was something I started to connect. Is like, well, that kind of sounds like, the surges, right? Gravitation.
Yeah.
it's their understanding of things they don't know yet. They don't know about mass and gravity, and it's a primitive culture trying to explain things they don't understand.
It's almost like you don't have like it's almost like investiture. Like I feel like investiture and matter and everything is kind of the same stuff. And like, but if you don't have like investiture, then you don't have, it sounds like you don't have like gravity and or any of these rules. And it's like kind of the same thing how like between planets there's nothing in the cognitive realm because no one's imagining anything. It's just like a void. Like I wonder if it's similar to like,
I think investiture is the harnessing of those powers, the harnessing of those surges, in which the surges are named after the harnessing of that.
okay,
A power of the universe, a fundamental law of.
it doesn't create
physicality.
that power. It lets you kind of
No.
interact with it.
It lets you manipulate that power.
In the cognitive realm, sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
In the cognitive realm is basically there does not have to be any physical things because it's how you view it. And if you view your manipulation of that, that's how it is. So the cognitive realm is mostly investiture.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know that last sentence is true about the cognitive realm being investiture. I don't think that's true.
Not true.
Not
The spiritual realm is investiture.
the spiritual realm is everything
Is
and nothing.
oh
All
yeah,
and
because
none.
well, I
Yes,
remember like
no.
hearing that there was like a bunch of it,
Mm.
like trapped, like the door was like trapped. Is that
Yeah,
trapped
you're
in the
right.
spiritual realm?
So the cell is weird because when Devotion and Dominion were killed by Odium, Odium shoved all of their power out of the spiritual realm into the cognitive realm.
Which don't ask me how that
Oh,
works.
So their investiture is in the cognitive realm. So it's like bursting at the seams to like get out.
but only in the cell region of the cognitive realm.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we see a couple of instances of investiture in the cognitive realm. Um, we see
You're right, because otherwise, Kaladin could just like breathe in the cognitive realm and use light, but they need
Yeah.
to bring in investiture into it. Okay. Uh, so, if the poisons don't work, why do they need to sleep?
Because your
so
brain gets tired.
But the chemicals
But
are working.
we've talked
so
about how their brain is working.
right
But
there's that, and so when your body sleeps, I'm not super strong on this particular bit of sciency bits. Um, but my understanding is that as you go throughout your day, a plaque builds up in certain sections of your brain, and as you sleep, those that plaque gets broken down and opens up the neuron pathways again. I like I said, I'm not super solid on that, so
okay,
I could be wrong. But anyway, as they're using their brain, maybe they have that same process that they have to sleep to
but
keep that
their
functioning.
bodies are being kept in stasis where they don't bleed, they don't heal, their hearts don't pump. So why would that happen?
Do we
Because
know that they need to sleep?
it's magic.
Here's the question. Do we know that they need to sleep? We know that they do sleep, but do we know that they need to sleep?
Which is an excellent question. I asked myself that same question when we saw Raoden uh, thinking about that in one of these chapters.
Yeah.
Seems like
Why
a
do they
lot of it
need
comes
sleep?
down to
Do they
what do you
need to
think you
sleep?
need to do? Like if you're an Elantris, you might be able to just not sleep, but if you still feel like you should have to sleep, then you probably can. I wonder if that's how it
Yeah.
works.
Possibly, but then
It
they should
might
think
be.
they should heal. Okay.
So, and also we know that the door is keeping them alive, but only just. So maybe only certain functions, certain most basic functions, are preserved. Right? Maybe they only have enough energy to think and talk and breathe, but
Well,
They don't need to
we don't.
breathe, though.
Right? They don't need to. They hold their breath for like an hour at some point when they go through the river. But it's we just don't know.
um,
Elantrians are weird, and
yes.
I think there was a point where Brandon actually says Elantrians are just weird.
I want to doubt it. Okay. Then we've got the Hall of the Fallen, where Glenn returns, muttering how beautiful they used to be.
Mhm.
Um, so what do the modifiers, the dot and the dashes, actually? Because those aren't. It seems weird that he's like, wow, those don't look like anything. They aren't written in Aerolish or whatever. They don't seem Aeonic. So what do those like? I'm guessing like he's base. They're basically right in saying specify, fix, left thigh bone, cleanse of impurities.
Yeah, it's just
But like,
specifying the different things
but like,
they need to do.
what are they writing? Like, I know how
They're,
to. I know how
Squiggles,
to.
dots, and lines, man. Like,
Like, I know what I would
yeah,
want, but like, if I was trying to write it in Japanese, I have no idea what to write in Japanese.
oh, so
yeah,
you're asking how do they know?
Exactly.
they learn it.
Because of. Go ahead.
They study it. This is something that they study. This is something that they have to learn
But
how to do. It's probably through trial and error. to see what works and what doesn't work, and then they write it down and they teach it to everyone else.
So, like, is there like a specific combination of dots? Is it like Morse code dot dash 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 dot dash, which
Yes.
translates to that, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
This is talked about later on in this book when Raoden is learning Aeons. He talks about how it lists the modifiers for different Aeons in
Oh,
his
it
little
does?
book. Yeah.
Okay.
At least like the coding I use, you have like certain operational codes and certain modal codes, and like you could have a code that could just be like M74, and then you would have like certain letters that would have certain parameters in that. Like your R could be like a radius, and your X could be like whatever. Like I wonder if it's the same thing. You have like a certain Aeon, like, and then each of those has like individual little parameters. Like, oh, if you put like this little dash and this little squiggle, and then if you write a number after that, that's like how many, or how much it weighs or something, or how long it is, like for each like
Yeah.
individual thing.
I
My
think that's
confusion-
exactly how it is.
My confusion is okay. So somehow they discovered the Aeons, probably through the Seance, but like, how did they discover the modifiers?
I think K-Sane was just trial and error for like the first people who came up with it.
It's like who? So I'm guessing they did like the healing one, and then like one person decided to like, oh shoot, my finger slipped. Wait a second.
Let's also not forget that they have a perpendicularity in the city.
Ooh.
Okay, but
So they
what
might have
would that-
learned it from somebody who no longer lives there or never lived there.
Right.
You think Hoyd knew? I hate Hoyd.
I'm saying it could have been leftover knowledge from someone who actually, spoke to Adamalcium.
Oh, that's true.
This
Or
could
it's
have been
like-
passed down from who knows. Like we don't have any of that kind of super deep history.
Or like when Aona and like Hoyd were like little kids, they made up a fake language, and that fake language became this. For all we know.
You got it.
Okay. I think the focus on the door will come in Jeskar and Duladel, because we get very little on either of those places really in this book.
Oh yeah, it's not focused on them.
It is to the point though where Raiden was like, "Oh yeah, those Jesker mysteries are weird," and I'm like, because we've been talking about the book so much, I've been like, dude, the mysteries are totally separate from the regular Jesker religion. You don't even know you're talking about, Raiden."
We don't know anything about the actual Jeskar religion though.
And then Galadon
That's true.
in book had the same exact reaction.
Although, now that we're like kind of discussing it and talking about it and thinking about it, I think that wherever Jesker came from probably has some ties to the door and the Aeons, just by nature of they understand the door better than anyone else, and that's what all of this is kind of based on.
That's what I think. I think they're gonna have to figure out where that knowledge came from. They gotta go to Duladel, and they're gonna figure out more about the Jeskar religion.
Unfortunately, the Jesker religion has been like destroyed.
Yeah,
So
they're gonna have
It
to
still
figure out a
lives
way
on
to
in
make
the
me
hearts of
care.
men.
honor lives in the hearts of men.
We've got Galadon who knows it right here.
We do. He just doesn't know that there's a connection yet.
Yeah.
A Cosmere Connection.
Okay. So drawing Aeons still acts as a perpendicularity, as when they fix the Aeons, they're able to gain power. Right?
Yes.
So, was the router Aeon leaking investiture out, even though it is broken? Or is it completely shut off?
You mean the
big
the
one.
like city?
Yes.
Yes, it's still leaking power. That's how people.
Okay, but the thing is, that's
Like-
just release of energy, and we see... Is there a different system in place that's picking the people? We don't know. So, did they create the router Aeon as a booster, or because if a person is far away from the router Aeon, their power is very weak. If a person is Elantrian, their power is very weak. So I'm wondering if that's the same power level.
I'm not sure I understand what you're driving at, but
So when they figure out you got to add the crater line, they are able to use Aeons, but it's very weak, right? It's not at they say it's like not at all what it's supposed to be.
mm-hmm.
If a normal Elantrian were to go to like some other part of the city or some other part of the country and do an Aeon, it would be weak because he's from the router Aeon, right?
Correct.
Are those two at the same power level?
So is
Uh,
the reduction in power the same because of both reasons?
Yes.
Does it matter?
Probably not, but it's interesting to know.
My suggestion would be that it is probably not the same, uh, because the distance at which you can be from Elantris and still make things work can be changed by changing the rune that connects you to the power. Right? That's why we have people in Tress using it on a whole different planet. So
I think what I'm asking is the
the
router
signal
Aeon.
loss from the access point that is Elantris versus the weakened power of the Aeons being used by Elantrians who are not fully transformed. I think they're like it's a symptom of one another. It's like it's compounded.
I think what I'm asking is the router acting as a here's the power, or is it a booster of the fact like this is a basic, this is the lowest a normal Elantrian at their normal levels, but the Aeon has over boosted them so much that that's what everybody believes their power level to be at now. Because they didn't have this router Aeon when they first started, right? Somebody had to build the city, make the Aeon. So like at some point they were all weak
but
Aeonic.
here's the question: what came first?
Yeah,
That's true. My question is, are we seeing the normal levels and the router Aeon is more of a booster, overcharging them?
I don't think we're seeing the normal levels. But I guess I can see how you would come to that conclusion since drawing the chasm is what fixes it. It's almost as if, like, well, yeah, if we didn't draw it, then nothing would have come out. Right?
But
Because drawing it incorrectly makes this happen.
also
but
you
when
can't
they
draw
draw
it in the first
correctly,
place, which this is where it really becomes chicken and the egg. You can't draw it in the first place if you're not an Elantrian. You can't be an Elantrian without Elantris, which means somebody had to
exactly,
draw the Elantrian ruin without being an Elantrian.
exactly. So that's the real. But I'm saying like we know that with the router Aeon down, they are still able to use power, right? I'm wondering if that's what their original power level was at,
But
and
the
then
the
later
That doesn't
they
seem
the
added
right.
on.
Aeon isn't down. It's just not it's not like it's not working. It's just not working correctly.
And if a person, leaves, they are still able to maintain being an Elantrian and still
Mm,
have some level of power. Which, by the way, if you go far away enough without a router, do they revert back to human?
no, no, because we already know that, Raider, because we see a lot far away from Cell.
Well, the Irie, they bring a battery of door that keeps them charged. We see that, well, I'm guessing the.
No,
Bank?
so it's like,
True.
why would she even think about it, like, this is so out of her depth, out of her wheelhouse.
Does
Okay,
anybody
Swiggity,
remember what we were talking about before?
We were
we were
about
just
to,
finishing up the chapter.
yeah.
Okay,
We
I'm
were
good to go
finishing up 19. So we're just
whenever.
going to start it off at 20.
Okay.
Okay. Chapter 20. Serene has her meeting about trying to get everybody to agree to go to help Iodin as well as assist her in Elantris. We got the comments about how Driak Crushthroat tried to take the throne because it is rightfully his as the son.
It's mine. I want it. It's a choice.
Then we've got her talking with Iodin. The charade is dropped. And I love the little comment like, oh, what would you do if you suddenly started killing your children? He kind of tried to do that.
Well, no, he never tried to actually kill Raoden. He was annoyed at Raoden. I don't think he would have actually killed Raoden.
He directly no, but he killed innocent girls in order to appease a god that would kill him.
And that's what he's doing, sneaking out at night, right?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
why the servant girl is missing, and that's what she's hearing. Is that Iodin's wanting to get rid of her, ironically.
Oh, God.
Anything else for 20?
Sorry, but side note, is that actually what he wants to do? Like, is that his reasoning? Doing these sacrifices? Like, do we have that confirmed in this book?
All we've got is he goes in there, he kills girls, and he's got a name written in blood on the wall, and one says like Serene, and another part says Raoden. So it sounds like he's trying to enact a curse upon them.
Okay. It's been a minute since I've read that section, so I was like, is that actually something that he's doing?
There's no like explicit, you interrupted me when I was planning this.
Well, yeah.
My plan was to have you two cursed and never work in this town again.
Let me talk about my maniacal plan.
I wonder if it actually does like have a little bit of sway though, because Raoden was taken.
I don't think so.
I
think
so.
that the Jesker Mysteries is just random. It's
Hogwash.
just like, yeah, complete
It's a bunch
BS.
of malarkey.
Yep. Okay. Chapter 21. This is where Deloff kind of outmaneuvers Hrathen, in which did Deloff actually make them his Odives, or was it more of a ceremonial thing in
No, I think he
preparation
did.
of this eventuality happening?
I think he actually did. I don't think they knew what they were signing up for when they did that, but I think he did. He
Yeah,
made a
he
bunch of
absolutely did.
people his Ode.
Otherwise, they would have had no reason not to accept the promotion from Raytheon.
I don't think he made. Did he make the other Artets his Ode?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. That's why
I
they
didn't-
wouldn't accept the position.
I thought they
He
were
gives
just
a whole list of like
scared
30
of
names,
him.
and they're all of Raythen's supporters in the church, and they can't take a position over their.
Odive.
No, they're the Odive.
Roden.
They're Roden.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, they don't want to take that position and risk angering him. So they're just like, I'm sorry, I can't, and I can't tell you why because obviously Deloff told him not to say anything about it.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, you know, if everything had gone well, would Deloff have, like, you're no longer my Odives anymore? Was he just using them for this, or did he actually plan to make them his Legionnaires.
I feel like he was actually like trying to make them like make
Just
feel
people
like-
his
Like he's trying to take
How-
over, right?
Yeah, how else could you more thoroughly get the loyalty of all of those people without alerting the person you're trying to keep it a secret from? You know, like, that's just a pretty easy, obvious way of doing it.
So we would have sent them all to the monasteries to get like brainwashed and everything after.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Imagine if all 31 of them show up to deliver a letter.
Tink, tink, tink. The
was like,
word,
"What?"
like, in a bathroom, opened his door, and he's like, "What do you all want?" He's like, "We are here to deliver a letter."
You're supposed to be converting them to Shukiseg. Or to Shudereth.
But wait a second. It couldn't have been, like, an actual report.
Which one did I tell you guys it
because
was?
Wern has a Sion.
So,
He's been reporting via Sion, so, like, there would have been no reason to have, like, an actual written report.
Oh, I
except
thought
that
it
Dilaf
was.
doesn't know that.
I thought it was definitely a letter that that on arrival to the shores, like Dilaf would have been like sent to like a monastery. It's definitely what I thought it was actually gonna be.
Oh, like in the
That-
beginning, how he was.
Yeah, like in the beginning.
Yeah.
He had the 2 letters.
Which that would have been very weird if he's like send this person to the monastery and they go in, open the door, and there's like a painting of him with the principal carved at the bottom of the portrait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but then imagine you send him with that letter and he shows up with 31 guys. All artists. Like, and the letter is telling you to, like, basically arrest him or shove him off or deal with him. And it's like, whoa, that's a totally different situation.
You have Harathan going up to the Elantrian wall. He passed by the beggars. I don't really remember the point of the beggars.
There wasn't
Just to
much of
sh-
one.
It's just to show that like there are people outside of the control of Iodon's government, and I think it's to tell you that there are other cities around Elantris. It's to remind you that there are other cities. I
And to
think.
show Harathan as like a good character.
Mm-hmm.
Because we also do get the visual of the fact, oh, there are 4 cities with
Mm-hmm.
perfectly circular walls. Okay, that's 21. Chapter 22. This is mine where they find out that Sheor is actually a little girl that's just been spoiled. There's the thing about the wall and how it's crumbling because the magic that was inside of it is now gone. Its integrity no longer stands. Then Serena shows up.
Yay!
I feel like I always get the cut and dry chapters.
You could pick more interesting ones if you next time, reader.
That reminds
thing is-
me. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to change the
No,
subject,
after
so
you.
what were you going to say?
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, for this book, I've been picking them in Braithen, Serene, Reread, and order.
That's cool.
So OCD like that.
I was going to say, the part that I was thinking of earlier was Shallan and Oathbringer when she's like giving food to the people in what's it called?
In the Kolinar.
Alethkar? Yeah, Kolinar.
In Kolinar.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then it turns out that like that one kid was getting bullied by like the gangs there, and he had to sit there and wait for food, and they eventually like killed him.
I don't remember
It's-
this at all.
Well, clearly you need to reread Oathbringer before December.
I probably do.
Yeah, no joke. Oh crap! I need to start reading Stormlight Archive.
Yeah,
Yikes.
I'll be fine.
I'm in
But
Words of
Oh, I have
Radiance.
to do my reread before the next book comes out. Crap.
I don't have the books available to me.
I only have 2 months. Ah.
But yeah, it's very similar to that scene with Shalon that
Mhm.
Sarini is doing here.
Okay.
Also, this was something that I was gonna mention. I just thought it was interesting that the fact that the Seons sleep, but Spren do not.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
Which I just think is an interesting
Oh, that is
difference
weird.
between them.
Well, there's got to be a way to distinguish between the type 1s, you know?
Hmm.
Okay. Chapter 23. Sereni meets with Karada and Aendon. So if they just told Sereni, hey, there are these insane people that kind of just act like animals and will attack, can we not broadcast that we want to give them food? That would have solved a whole other issue.
I mean, communication is key. The whole dynamic between Raoden and Sereni as well, Raoden as spirit and Sereni could have been resolved very, very much earlier had they just said, you know, hey, my name's Raoden.
Well, there are
And
some
you're
things
fitting.
like there are some things like I can see as happening. Like, okay, I can understand why they don't want to explain. Hey, we're actually one giant group now, and you have a right to be afraid. Or, hey, by the way, I'm your fiance, but I kind of look like a hideous zombie.
Except he's not hideous because you mentioned the fact that
Yeah, but like, I can understand that as a character flaw, and I can understand it's the little things like it that could be done that honestly, there's no reason why they couldn't. That kind of annoy me. As evident by Sereni not using Ashley to the full capability. We're not gonna get into it.
We're definitely spoiled by Sanderson as an author to like a lot of these things being addressed.
Yeah. I feel like we didn't need the character jump. I feel like that is kind of a overshowing of, oh, now that we have Sereni viewing this, let's see what our other characters seem to think instead of waiting 2 chapters.
I think it's kind of fun.
It's fun, I just think it's showing and telling instead of just seeing the reactions.
You think it's unnecessary.
Yes. Not to say that it isn't fun, it's just it can be cut out.
Just imagine the day though, like Sanderson sitting around, he's writing, he's like, wait a second, I could just change the perspective.
He breaks the rule right there for just so we can see like them all reacting to it.
I can do whatever I want.
Oh my god. I wonder if Sereni hated Raoden when she first met him as well, considering she hated Spirit and then she disliked his other persona later. It's like, was it always starting off as like, we don't get along at all?
Wait, what was the question?
So like, Sereni starts off hating Spirit. Later, when Raoden pretends to be the Duladelian, the doula, she doesn't like him either. So I'm wondering if when they first started doing their cell calls, did she not like Raoden then either? But was this a repeated occurrence?
The reason she doesn't like Spirit or Raoden's doula form is because she can see that he's being fake. And she doesn't like people who are fake and lie. And she doesn't, especially when he's being the doula, she doesn't like put her finger on it right away. But she can sort of get that, like she's got this hunch that there's something up. And she doesn't like that. So she immediately is like cautious and borderline hostile.
I like that. That when Raoden was his true self is when she immediately fell in love. And then these other two, when she saw Raoden in them, she started to like it.
well, maybe not immediately fell in love, but they grew to love one another
Yeah.
at a distance. Yeah.
Don't ruin my Disney story.
Song as old as time.
I can't come up with a good enough rhyme on the top of my... I need to start planning these. Okay, that was it for me. Anybody have anything else for this chapter set in the spoiler realm?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, that's just about going to cover it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us in our ramblings and predictions. This has been Cosmere Connections, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Let's try to make this one short, because all of them have been like 2 hours now. They've all been the length of the Hero of Ages finale. I don't think our Elantris episodes need to be that long. Okay.
Maybe if you just agree that I'm right, Reader, we won't have this problem.
Well.